Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're taking this elf fighter on a permadeath journey like no other, seeing if we can survive the dungeons of Dark and Darker all the way to level 20. This elf is not like many of the others. He is wielding speed and agility alongside the options of a fighter class. Things such as two-handed weapons or heavy armor make him an outcast among his elf people, seeing as they use weapons of grace and elegance with speed. His mission is quite simple. He's set upon a mission to prove to the elves of his homeland that you don't always need to use a recurve bow or a nice, sleek sword. His job and his task will be making it through Howling Crypts using some of the more archaic weapons and armors of a fighter class, something that he prefers. That being said, you can still be successful in finding speed and grace with the fighter class, seeing as we're taking sprint and adrenaline rush alongside combo attack. Provides you some pretty decent damage early, and I think is probably your fastest way to 0 to 100 a player on the fighter class. Don't really have the damage early on to use Victory Strike and Slayer. Slayer usually means you have to get incredibly close, and it will greatly depend on what sort of weapons we find, either in the Merchant or Goblin Merchant. Zombie had a weird awakening into this world. Don't mind the spawn. Get some free pots. The trick is to dodge the spike traps on the wall, which can be forgotten about quite easily. They place the pots intentionally so that you bend over and get basically spiked in the face. Same as the spider one in the rooms above. We get an early potion, which is quite handy, considering we have absolutely nothing. And we know there's a fight ahead of us because a guy spawns directly in this room beyond. And usually, not always, but usually there's quite a bit of stuff to fight in there, so it takes time. And you can get down this hallway, for the most part, faster than the player in here. So I'm kind of curious why there's no noise. And then I hear some footsteps. I hear a bow, so this is definitely a ranger who we're going to need to rush down. This guy asked if we're friendly, and I'm not going to vote back. It's not what I'm interested in doing. I'm going to see if we can catch him with his pants down and land some hits on him. Unfortunately, can't quite stick to him, and I'm not going to chase any further because quick shot will literally delete us. That was so very close to having him right where we wanted him. But even still, with sprint, if I have a sword and shield out, my movement speed is reduced a lot more than just using a single weapon. He was able to basically just run away from us and keep that distance because Arming Sword doesn't apply that great of a slow on hit. He could have turned, and I'm pretty sure that longbow would have 100 to 0 us in a couple arrows, considering we have absolutely no projectile resistance right now. So it might have been best we just let him go off to his own devices. It would be a real shame if we ruined our quest or our journey so early on. And to my surprise, this guy left a nice little wall of loot here, which is one of the better spots to loot in Goblin Caves. I hear a bow creak, and sure enough, this guy was a little bit annoyed, so he comes back for a bit more. I just hope he doesn't push us or try to bait us into a trap. We find a helmet. Helmets and the hit shot reduction is absolutely crucial. So crucial early on, as a headshot from any arrow, projectile, magic missile, anything at all can be very deadly. That's why I usually run the Hound Skull. How you guys say that one? Hoon Skull. Regardless, it has crazy good projectile reduction and really solid headshot reduction numbers. We find a purple candelabra, I think it's called, and that could be worth a lot of gold. Considering bangles are worth like 5 or 6 gold each, that thing's almost worth extracting with by itself. Going through this hallway, please make sure you guys duck. As the amount of times I've seen people get impaled by spikes going through that hallway in a panic is a lot. It happens far too often. Most people are pretty scared of this room, and once they start hearing that buzz of the death beetle, it forces them down that hallway quite quickly. And of course, I think there's even a few shiny little items on the ground just to bait you into it. Not too interested in fighting that ranger. He has a kill, which is probably that barbarian we saw earlier, but I also see that there's a stiletto dagger on the loose. And stiletto daggers are incredibly scary. The fact that a rogue even has one means that he likely brought in a kit, or brought in a stiletto, and if you're bringing in a stiletto, you're probably bringing in at least a green or a blue, which essentially means I have no chance of fighting that rogue. And if I happen to cross his path, it will not matter how determined this young elf is, we will not be escaping with our lives. So we just take a breather here for a second to see if we hear any movement with our elf ears, hoping we hear players before they hear us. To our fortune, we actually hear a portal very early on, the first one to spawn in this lobby. And with the recent portal changes, I'm telling you guys, taking an early portal is not to be frowned upon. You don't want to be stuck fighting over that last portal with guys with way better gear than you. Take the one early, or wait to the stairs, because I've been stuck many times now, waiting for a portal, or fighting over the last portal, which is fun, but not when you have no gear. So we're going to grab this one, grab a bit more loot, and hope and pray that we find some nice stuff at the Goblin Merchant or the regular weapon merchant. Just snag some throwing axes off that Death Skull, and then a potion, as well as a sellable. And that little bit of box breaking came in quite handy. So we're going to escape. We're going to take a quick look at what was out there and what we were dealing with. This is a guy, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Green longbow, +2 all attributes, and some strength stacked on there. 26 agility, is that what I saw? And, jeez. That was likely the guy we were fighting, as this guy's using a recurve. Other than that, we got this poor wizard. This is the stiletto dagger. Yeah. That is very fortunate we didn't run into that guy. So we make it out, which is huge, and now we can buy some stuff. And this is the moment we just cross our fingers and pray that there's some decent stuff at the Goblin Merchant or the regular merchant, because we managed to make a pretty heavy amount of gold here, considering how little we actually looted and for how long we were in there. Pretty sure that purple candelarina, I can't say it properly either. Pretty sure that purple item was worth almost 100 gold by itself, which is usually a decent run in Goblin Caves, so that was hugely beneficial and hugely lucky, as we did make it out with some potions and 100 gold. Or 171 gold, sorry. That is wild. Which means we have some really awesome decisions we can make. I've been really enjoying Halberd, and I feel like this elf is just ready to show that he can two-hand grip a weapon and be successful. Not many elves will do this, but this guy is young and he is taking risks. So, we're going to go Halberd, and then see what we can roll for on the merchant, the Goblin Merchant. Lightfoot boots are very nice because of the 10 movement speed. Something that would very much benefit a solo player. We have some really interesting options. I don't mind stacking agility. We have some okay items here we could be buying as well, as those strength pants are not terrible. We have 100 gold, so we're going to go for the strength pants, and then maybe roll on a few other items. I think the item I wanted was 50. Yeah, 50 for the boots we're going to roll on. Pray, and unfortunately, as usual, that was kind of a bad roll. Now we're left with 46 gold. Really tempted to roll on something else, if I can sell some things. Regal Gambitson. Not horrible. It's kind of a tough decision. We just kind of shy of the gold we need, and we still need meds. So, we sell the lockpick. I didn't realize lockpicks are literally only worth 1 coin, which kind of sucks. So very little other upgrades. We're probably going to need to spend this money on meds to keep us alive, which will basically burn the last of our money on. And this is a pretty solid pile of meds. We got a decent weapon upgrade and pants, throwing axe. Awesome start so far to this guy's journey. And then I kind of have this little idea. I have 13 gold, and I probably could have bought a longbow and gone weapon mastery. Something my elf homelanders would have very much enjoyed. But, unfortunately, I don't have the money for arrows or that longbow anymore, and we're just going to have to run what we have. So because of our previous successes and the fact that there are quite a few geared guys in Goblin Caves, this elf is going to set foot for the first time ever in the duo queue map of runes. So we'll see what runes has to offer and whether or not we can make it out alive. It's quite risky, but this bad boy's already hitting for like 90 damage. You just see that there? You can actually smash into people's arrows. I've done that before where I've hit someone's arrow and it's really thrown me off. 89 damage on the first swing. Combo that with Adrenaline Rush and our increased damage after the second hit. We can deal a lot of damage with this bad boy. And I love the cleave on it. It's so satisfying cleaving through multiple targets using the halberd. Sounds like there's a bard singing a song which thankfully cut short as we're jumping into another game. So this will be the first time I've ever attempted to survive on runes since the update to the duo queue mode. Quite an exciting change. I've heard some really good things. Runes is kind of an odd state right now because you can't actually farm worm. So as much as I'm gonna probably enjoy playing here, it's kind of weird because there's no real central focus or main boss to be farming on this map. Even in Goblin Caves you can farm Centipede or Skeleton Champion in the middle levels. In this map, I haven't really found that area since Worm has been changed where I want to go there, I want to see if I can make it out and get the loot from that area. I'm sure there's still some decent stuff in the chest underneath, but really the whole excitement of this map was farming Worm to see if you got the rusty key. Or at least even the loot piles that were in that room beyond. Truthfully, I have no idea what's even in there anymore. One thing I do remember about this map is the fact that there's a lot of range mobs, so I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful. When fighting a shield, you kind of have to learn how to hit over it, which I thought all those were headshots and they just kept clipping his shield as they were just at max range for this halberd. The recent halberd buffs have me super excited, as this weapon has always been really cool to me, but I think in general, two-handed weapons have been somewhat reduced with all the movement speed and damage that's going on right now. I just love how beautiful this map is as well, with the moonlight shining through the runes. It is pretty nice, even though it can be absolutely terrifying, because at any moment a rogue could literally destroy your run. I think it'd be really cool if they had runes as a map that was like a seasonal map. So like this is summer runes at night. It would be really cool if they had like a winter version of this map where the skeleton mage perhaps had ice bolts instead of fire. And it was like a winter version, all the trees were stripped of their leaves and stuff. A little bit of snow on the ground, leaving footprints around. I think it'd be really awesome to see seasonal changes to this map, or variations that were based on a seasonal change. As we're fighting these, we get ourselves in a bit of a mess with these spiders. And if you're not aware, halberd is horrible at killing spiders. That is why we have this Viking sword still in our inventory. Hearing that bard has me a little bit worried, because you're not really seeing too many solo bards anymore, which means that guy is buffing up his buddy. See a rogue? Looks like a rogue messing around, looks like a group of two, but I can't really tell who's on whose team over there. We're trying not to get spotted as our halberd does stick out quite far. See a bard and I think a rogue, which is a very fast team, but also a very easy to kill team if you can get close with this bad boy. Just give us two really good swings and we could have maybe both of them on the ground. I don't want to spring out too early because there is a lot of ground between me and them. So we are choosing the more passive method, using our elf ears and light footsteps. Somewhat stalk these guys from a distance. We are going to clear up this mob while no one's around, in case we need to move in this direction later. 2 hits with this halberd does that thing in quite quickly. Now I'm very curious. Those guys didn't look like uber geared or super stacked, so it could be an opportunity for us to make the most of these weapon upgrades we purchased after the last raid. Listening for movement. Start to hear footsteps. Over the crows and the owls, we do hear these guys and then spot them going across this bridge. Looks like they are ready to engage with another team. Kind of a shame they took that protection buff. Protection buff is very nice. Even still, after the nerfs, it is a super solid option. Makes you believe it also adds to your magic resist, which is a very difficult thing to build on the fighter class. Even with a full magic resist setup, you're looking at 20, maybe 25% magic resistance, which is really nothing in the grand scheme of things. See these guys getting pushed back, a couple players go down, and then we have our opportunity to strike. And an arrow that was destined for this guy clatters into us, but our halberd absolutely smashed that guy. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was playing rogue, and we probably scared that guy. I highly suspect he was not prepared for that halberd to the back of the head. We heard some stuff breaking over here, so we know there's a player close by, and we spot a warlock almost immediately upon entering this room. I'm going to take the slow approach to this one as well, in case it's another duo. Things seem a little quiet. We're going to get full HP here, because we have lots of meds. Don't need to worry too much about our med situation, and this fight could be a big one. Here's some pots breaking. We are once again going to channel our inner rogue here, just to be patient and make sure this is an actual 1v1, not a 2v1. Sounds like he's doing some looting. And that sounds like someone just drawing a crossbow, which is a whole different team. And there's a fight definitely happening. We have cleric spells and a crossbow, which means cleric is buffing somebody. And this warlock is in a fight for his life. Hoping to interrupt this right at the right moment, we are once again going to wait till it's the most opportune time for us to strike. I'm kind of rooting for this warlock, not going to lie, as he looks like to be dealing with an uphill battle here in a 2v1. He seems to be surviving quite well, kiting and keeping the cleric and fighter at a distance. As he's not wearing a lot of gear, we're going to show ourselves hoping to make a brief alliance here. If this guy can lure them close to us, this will be a huge turning point for him and myself as we try to win versus this geared squad. Anyone bringing in a crossbow definitely brought other items as well, as it's not a real common item on any class. And this guy's doing it perfectly. He's just kind of pacing himself, and they know I'm here somehow. I have no idea how they knew, but we have to go for this. Adrenaline rush. And we bring down the fighter. We heard a portal behind us, luckily not a player. Unfortunately, our warlock takes a mace to the face, and now we're in a 1v1. I need to keep him at range, but I cannot eat a judgment. So we've got to force the issue. And luckily, somehow, I have no idea how, but the halberd strikes through that shield, and we win. Now I'm literally 15-20 HP, and we need to get this gear as fast as possible, as we may not get a chance to loot everything. Quickly going through everything as fast as possible, we need to grab as many valuables as we can and get to full health, or else we're going to get shanked by a rogue. I'm so traumatized by rogues, I'm terrified to get killed by one. And I did just hear some footsteps. We pop this portal and pray that we can go back and finish looting, but potions take so friggin' long. Even bandages take forever now. Cautiously moving towards this loot. I want to loot this stuff so bad, and I see a potion and a rogue go invisible, and he could be in my face in no time, so we have to leave. It's so unfortunate, and it still haunts me to this day, but we had to leave so much stuff there. I really wanted to loot the cleric. Luckily, we have a good kit for our fighter elf that is going to be dressed in some pretty decent armor from here on out. That is a very nice find. it is a little bit deceiving because lightly geared fighters, you're kind of in the mix, like, between a really good kit and just an okay kit. And I'm kind of caught in two minds with this gear because in order for it to be really, really effective, you need at least probably blues or solid greens with some damage reduction across the board. But we're going to try this out, and it'll be the first time I've really played an armor-clad fighter. Not just with the gear, we made some solid money off just the collectibles from that round. I feel so bad for that Warlock. I wish him the best in his next couple lobbies, but I have him to thank for how that 2v1 went. I also have to thank that halberd, which it's a shame we got rid of it, because that halberd plus Adrenaline Rush was huge. Man, it destroyed that first fighter, bouncing off his shield, forcing him to recover as the Adrenaline Rush kicked in, leading to a third hit to the dome, ending his run. I'm not a huge fan of Fine Cuirass. I know it's essential if you're going armor fighter, but I'm really tempted to buy another halberd and ditch the sword and shield. But I feel like we should just lean fully into this and go full tank, keep our setup, and maybe gamble on some other items to improve what we already have. I've also been debating this may be an opportunity where we do take second wind just to keep ourselves in a fight a little longer, as our damage totals with Adrenaline Rush on the arming sword and shield aren't going to be that great. The DPS is going to be okay, but it's not going to... I just don't feel like it works as well with this build, and I may have to switch off and use second wind, which isn't something I really enjoy using solo, and I probably should be buying campfires, but the problem is even if you pop a campfire yourself, it's difficult to get second wind back. Sometimes it doesn't like tick enough if you like make a mistake or you don't sit down almost immediately. So it's kind of odd how that works. Tempted to run to projectile resistance just to get as much projectile reduction as possible, especially on a map like Ruins. But I think with this armor we're gonna have to stick with Swift, even though we have the shield and some other interesting shield options. Swift is just easy, default, you get a benefit from this, and we're going to be slower than what I'm normally used to. Like I said, we are going to go with second wind. I'm tempted to buy a campfire, but I don't think a gray campfire actually gets you a second wind back if you're placing it yourself. You need a teammate, which is really horrible. Why can't solos get second wind back also? Kind of trash. So we have some gold, 158 gold. We're going to buy a ring, which is one thing we are missing. Get an okay ring with some magic stuff on it, unfortunately. And with our 58 gold, we're probably just going to load up on some pots and then jump right into another game with this elf fighter. So far, he's done quite well. And now it's time to prove himself once again using the armor. It isn't really of his people, but perhaps it'll work out in our favor and we can survive a few more of these. At least until we get into Howling Crypts, or maybe even High Roller, to really prove ourselves. We get another interior spawn on the Ruins map, which is quite nice. It does leave me kind of unsure of what to do. Not realize Skeleton Wizard can aggro on you from there. Now that we have this gear, this is like a whole new playstyle for me. I have never, in a long time, run any type of armor on the fighter class, and it's... like, I know it's not ideal. In a team, this is how you should be playing fighter. I just struggle to find the joy in playing this way without the movement speed. I find I really struggle solo to do enough damage and stay alive long enough, even lightly geared like this. Like I said earlier, it's kind of like a weird in-between. Right off the hop we get a ranger shooting at us. This ranger didn't look like he had too much stuff, so I'm not too concerned about him. I don't think our projectile resistance or our armor resistance is all that high. Even using what we have here, it's not incredible. I mean, 30% damage reduction is okay. It's alright, but I am very slow and I'm feeling it. So making up the ground is going to be very reliant on sprint. And even sprint is not going to help us catch classes like the ranger if he has his bow put away. So it's kind of just, yeah, you gotta really time yourself well here. Almost forgot I had a crossbow. You can answer some of these calls to action. Sound like that might have hit him. Not too sure. But then he confirms it by eating. So we know he's back to full HP. We try to jump around the corner. He does the same thing. We cannot land a swing with this arming sword. See, he's just juking all over the place. And look at that. 2 arrows. 2 arrows from the starting recurve bow. Nearly took us down. Took us down almost past half HP. And I don't know where this trap came from. I don't know how I didn't hit it. But that right there would have been an entire run over to a base kit ranger. Not saying ranger's super overpowered or anything, but even with some solid items, I mean, I'm not talking amazing items, but I have some decent armor. We are not doing much to stop the damage from those arrows. If he had played that a little better, maybe hit a shot on the lead up, I would have been really struggling, not to mention, we just got super lucky dodging that trap. Dodge a few more arrows here. Luckily, 2 hits to this arming sword takes him down nicely. But that had me worried. I was kind of expecting to not be hurt so badly after that engagement. And in the back of this elf fighter's mind, he's starting to realize there are weaknesses in this armor. And one of them being movement speed and the fact that you need some pretty decent sets to get good value out of it. But for now, we're still alive. And we still have our second wind, which is a huge advantage when we do get into a heavy engagement. You get a mimic. It can be rather annoying sometimes. I also have to remember to swing twice with the arming sword and not rely so much on that third swing, which made it more challenging to kill that ranger. Back to where we started. We're gonna head towards the middle of this zone. Not too interested in fighting that skeleton mage. We'll grab some of this loot to make this worth it. I always forget. It's one thing I always forget. When you take damage from a ranger, like, you get hit by arrows, they end up in your inventory. The amount of times I've left a lobby and been like, where the hell did these arrows come from? Like, I didn't pick up any arrows. And then I start to realize, oh, it's because I'm fighting rangers. I will say, using the arming sword always feels nice. Such a clean weapon. And a leather bonnet just laying on the ground. We will keep that. Maybe someday we'll get to level 10. And we'll be able to sell some of this stuff. Thought I heard something underneath me, but it's just a fire trap. I've never actually explored the underbelly of the ruins map. I've also never fought in the cockatrice, which can, I think, drop some okay stuff, so perhaps that's the new lure, the new thing to go to on this map. And I don't see very many people doing worm anymore, with the rusty key horde being no more, from what I understand. Lots of old shoes. Lots of junk. Lots of serious junk. I feel like this map has been super fun. Like, I'm pretty impressed with Duo Q right now and how enjoyable it's been. It's been a great place for this elf to test out his skills. And also, don't feel too overwhelmed by the amount of buffing and stuff going on in these team comps. A single cleric or a bard is much better than teams running both. And you feel like you have to get through layers upon layers upon layers of buffs and damage reduction spells. Not to mention, anyone in those teams is also dealing a ton of damage with action speed buffs that almost rival the adrenaline rush I was using earlier. So this is kind of a nice, almost a nice level playing field for a solo player with some solid skills. I'm excited to keep playing this. But if I want to keep this fighter alive, we do have to be cautious because we hear drums close by. Sounds like someone's throwing some arrows back and forth, so these guys could be fighting another team. We are not going to get involved in this quite yet. We're once again going to be patient here and skipping ahead a little bit. We hear some stuff still happening out here. And I'm really tempted to open this door and see what's going on. Could be a bold decision, perhaps a bad one. Don't know if that hit. It doesn't seem like it did. These guys don't even know I'm here yet. I think that one missed as well, just under his arm. We take 2 arrows, which nearly half health us, so we need to back off. So that is a situation I'm going to avoid for the time being. We need to get these elf feet the heck out of there because his bow is hurting a lot more than mine will be. And once again, even with some okay armor, projectiles still freaking hurt. I'm guessing that guy has a blue or green longbow. It will be very likely that he does. They're not super expensive. And the damage you can drop with them is pretty absurd. Truthfully, a bard ranger comp, it's a very interesting one. I'm super curious to see what everyone else is running in duo queue. Speed and action speed on the bow and the movement speed they would have would be quite a fun time. However, a rogue could end either of those players' journey extremely quickly. These guys kind of took off, and you just look at all the arrows that are sprayed across this wall. They were engaged with somebody else, and I see a longbow just took out a player, so they must be fighting. Yeah, I see them jumping across. We're going to try to get some arrows on them, because that could be the alpha team of this lobby. Luckily for us, we do get a portal out of here in case we need it. And judging by how much that arrow hurt, I don't think I'm going to get myself in a great situation pushing into that team. We're going to clear the mobs, open this space up, pop the portal, and then, you know, judge what we can do. Situation arises where we can maybe make a play. We're going to try it. I'm always super curious to see how these final engagements go. And I don't want to miss out on an opportunity to take out a group of 2 players in my freshly found armor. This is the type of proving ground this elf came here for. He doesn't quite want to leave just yet. Everything went very quiet. See, there was 1 kill with the longbow, but nothing else so far. We hit a trap. And that seriously scared the crap out of me. Look at that. Even just a trap does like 20% HP. That's crazy how much damage it takes off the top. If I still can't believe I found that other one after I killed the guy. And this elf would have had a very short journey. See, there's a skeleton under this barrel is kind of disappointing. I just wanted to get some quick loot and move on. So 20 gold. Not a terrible skeleton loot. I want to take another quick peek across this bridge just in case. Just in case someone comes stumbling along. I really want to test out this crossbow again. I haven't been using crossbow enough to get used to the projectile speed again. It is a tricky weapon to hit people with when they're moving side to side. The projectile speed is so slow. We might have hit that guy, but they're definitely coming to end my journey, and we're not going to let that happen. See a rogue up here, of course, sitting in the darkness. Doesn't look like we hit either of these guys. And a blue halberd. Yeah, and a blue longbow. The damage from that halberd alone would be enough to probably crumple my guy unless I landed some blocks. And that blue longbow was the reason why those arrows were hurting so friggin' much. He had weapon damage, probably a few other stat bonuses on there. This guy seems pretty base kit, so we might have been able to win against that fighter. But I really respect this rogue for at least putting a little bit of fear into this ranger, because look at that. Half HP before the ranger could even react. I wonder if that portal wasn't there, if that guy would have stuck around and tried to finish that fight. We get some okay loot once again. Kind of a lot of junk items. We did get a kill on that ranger. I think we're just going to sell that bonnet and see how much we profited. Once again, I left with arrows, not realizing it as that ranger did hit us. So once again, we have probably enough gold for another gamble. Maybe a weapon upgrade or armor upgrade from the merchants. We'll do a quick check. We'll buy some meds first just to make sure we have enough for those. And then see what we can find. I'm not too concerned, truthfully. We have an okay set. We just need like minor details, like maybe a better helmet or a pair of boots. That halberd's still sitting there, so interesting to me. I love the damage on that thing now. It is so solid. I think a blue one used to be 52 damage, like 52 to 55. You can get them fairly cheap, and the Adrenaline Rush combination is just super exciting to me. But look, we need to make some tough decisions here. I'm really tempted to roll Gambeson. It literally has Gamba in the name, so it must be a good idea. But I'm kind of struggling with my setup. I'm not sure that's the best route to take with the gear I have, and I'm always trying to move quickly as a solo. Even though so far in duos it has been successful, I'm worried about going into Howling Crypts with this setup. We need to be mobile. We see a Gambeson here, green one for 50 gold. Also interesting, but the stats just aren't quite good enough. Nothing too exciting in the Woodsman as well. I was hoping for a better bow. Still curious about this Gambeson, but we decide, let's buy a helmet maybe, because that will be a nice upgrade as Armit. And Armit has something of value to us, and then go from there. And then we realize, maybe we should be upgrading that round shield, or I'm still stuck on that Gambeson, as you just never know, and the Goblin Merchant can be very giving sometimes. Sometimes get super lucky and just strike gold. And if I strike gold on that Gambeson, it could completely change how this class and how much movement speed I'll have. Could have some awesome upgrade to my plate, as I'm not a big fan of moving so slow. But it'll need to be like a blue at least. And after a lot of internal debate, we decide to roll it. We get 1 additional magic damage. I don't think that applies to anything at all in the fighter class, because I don't do any magic damage, so I'm pretty sure that only works if I'm dealing magic damage. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is a tough decision, as it drops our physical damage reduction like 10%. And next episode in this journey, we do make some changes, and eventually we get to fill this elf stream of taking this gear that isn't really meant to be his own into Howling Crypts. Trying to prove his people's wrong, that this is something he can succeed with. So tune into that one. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you all. I appreciate you. Enjoy your time in the dungeon. Cheers.